What did a crush do that made you immediately lose interest? He would steal people's tips off the bar counter when we were at a bar together with friends. Then he would offer to buy me food with it. No thank you. Played hard to get. No thanks. If you're gonna ghost me for days at a time and then get pissed off when I don't respond in 0.5 seconds, then that's not my problem. Shows how hard to get can easily turn into hard to want. A woman I was talking to was recently divorced and had moved back in with her parents. She already had a child and a couple pets and was talking about getting another pet, and her parents told her no. She chose to go ahead and get another pet anyhow, and basically her parents began pushing her out the door. And it was a stressful situation for her, and I suggested she talk to her folks. However, once she told me she was grown and made her own decisions and did not care about their rules, I suddenly understood and quickly lost interest. She told me that spanking her teenage daughter didn't work because it wasn't satisfying enough. Edit a bit of context. This was long ago and far away in a European country. The mother was a statuesque blonde divorcee and the daughter was about 14 and headed for trouble. Corporal punishment was de rigueur at the time, both here and in Europe. I decided that the situation was hopeless and noped out of there as soon as possible. The daughter hated her mother, big surprise, and went on to get pregnant and force her mother to raise the child. I came back to the States and still consider myself lucky to have dodged that bullet. I was casually dating a 19-year-old guy when I was 18. He seemed totally normal until I met him at his house before a date and his mom asked him to take the garbage out before we left. He threw a fit that would embarrass most 3-year-olds, including crying, yelling at his mom, and punching the floor. I pretended that my parents were calling and needed me to come home, blocked his number, and never saw him again. I like to think that mom knew he'd do that and was trying to save you the trouble. For context, him 6 feet 4 inches, built dude, me 5 feet 0 non-built lady. We were hanging out at his house when he jokingly blocked my way when it was time for me to go and wouldn't let me pass. I asked him to let me by when he wouldn't. I told him I was uncomfortable and he called me a crazy bee. That was the end of that for me. 2 days after our first date, she showed up at my work with a pan of homemade lasagna, a ice cream making machine for my kids, and all kinds of groceries. I was a single dad at the time and I guess it was some sort of care package for me. I also work about 2 hours from where she lives. When I said she didn't have to do that, she started to cry. Bit of a red flag. I had a harmless crush on a married friend that I did not signal or act on, ever. I've been the spurned wife before. I kept my distance and did everything short of unfriending him on Facebook. He slid on into my DMs right after my separation became public knowledge and he found out I was no longer married. He was still married to his wife with a baby on the way. I didn't respond. They are divorced now. She's a really lovely person and deserves so much better. Guy was academic, hygienic, and sweet. Treated waitstaff appropriately. Spoke formally but still funny. Shared things in common. Me. Perfect gentleman. Date ended 10/10. While driving me home, at a stoplight, pointed to a homeless man crossing the street, said I would stop my car for anybody crossing the street, just not homeless men. Where do they have to be? They're in no hurry. Me thinking, okay, unsolicited and kinda odd. He added another comment, it'd be funny if I run him over. Me, ghosted him like, right after he dropped me off. I went on 2 dates with a girl when I was in college. She was wonderful, but immediately wanted to be official and started drafting Instagram posts about us. She wanted to spend every day together and have sleepovers every night. It was so out of nowhere, and we literally knew nothing about one another. I tried to look past it, but she asked me to be her first, and I got uncomfortable. She seemed naive, and I didn't want to take advantage. I suggested we take things slow, and she took offense. I cut things off, and her reaction was super childish. All of this in a 3-week period. Sweet girl, but the pacing was off. Coworker at work, had just a beautiful energy, absolutely lovely to be around, always smiling at everyone, and she would laugh at my jokes, and she made some comments from time to time that made me feel validated and understood, which was very flattering. Like she guessed my passions in life and told them to me with a big smile while looking me in the eyes, and I'm a reserved guy who doesn't share that stuff. All just very lovely. One day we are in the break room and she's talking to another guy the same way, and I'm consciously talking myself out of being jealous. You're not dating or anything, you don't even have a cell phone number. She's allowed to be lovely with other people now, come on, no reason to be jealous. Then when the guy leaves, she turns to the girl next to her and says, "God, I hate that guy." And I had just been jealous that she was treating him exactly like she treats me. I still feel foolish when I think about it. Like, does she like me or hate me? I've told this story before, but when I was about 8 years old, we took a field trip to the Field Museum here in Chicago. During our lunch break, I decided to wander off to the gift shop and see what they had. I had a huge crush on this girl named Victoria in my class, and I saw this ladybug ring for a couple of dollars. I knew she liked ladybugs, and I had money my parents gave me to buy something at the shop, so I decided to buy the ring and give it to her. I was really nervous and kept waiting for the right time to do it. I eventually decided to just go for it and walked up to her near the end of the trip. She was with some of her friends, which made me more nervous, but I found the courage to do it. She looked at the ring and laughed. Her friends joined her, and she then tossed the ring in the trash. I was completely devastated and tried hard to hold back my tears. Even though I'm over it now, that completely ducked my confidence with girls for a long time. Looking back, I may have embarrassed her too, giving it to her in front of her friends, which is why she reacted that way. But whatever the case, it's probably the most embarrassed I have been in my life, and it definitely made me lose interest in her. Back in college, I was seeing a girl casually. Whenever we'd text, she'd take hours to respond to any message. It wasn't a big deal, since most of the time it was just chatting or setting plans for the following weekend or something. It was a little annoying because it'd take a full day or two to set up plans because of the slow responses, but whatever. I'm a bad texter, so I can't really judge someone for that. But I started to notice that when we hung out together, she'd immediately respond back to any and every text she got. She had some loud song as a ringtone that played for like 15 seconds and set it so that her camera LED would flash constantly while it rang. Totally obnoxious, and made me really notice how often she texted. I casually asked her who she was texting one time, and it was just some friend from school that had sent her a meme. After that, I realized it wasn't going to work. Being a slow texter is fine. Constantly texting while hanging out was annoying, but not a deal breaker, especially if we were just chilling at one of our houses. But the realization that this person who was glued to her phone but didn't feel like it was a priority to respond back to my texts made me feel unimportant, so I kinda just drifted away. We stayed friends because we shared the same group of friends, and it wasn't awkward or anything. I just stopped trying to do things with just the two of us. Not a crush, but an ex. Jiggled the door handle while I was taking a shit and then got angry that I wouldn't let her in. Huh, why can't I come in? Are you not comfortable with me or something? We're dating. It had been 3 days. Met a woman, thought she seemed cool. We went out to eat. She's telling me about how she fell on financial hard times and moved back in with her parents. The way she described it just sounded like she got unlucky, not that she did anything irresponsible. It happens. When the bill came, I told her I'd pay. She said, "Thanks, I appreciate that. I'm trying to save my money right now." Me, "Sure, I understand. You want to get your own place again." No, actually I mean I'm trying to save up $500 for a tattoo I want to get. I've got nothing against spending money on tattoos, but when you've just spent a first date talking about the financial troubles you have, maybe now's the time to start putting money away for necessities, not tattoos. Back in college, I went on a date with this girl who checked off all the boxes pretty much. Cute, funny, smart, cool, should be a nice date. She wanted Mexican, cool. I like Tex-Mex too. I order enchiladas. She orders a taco salad, hold everything except the ground beef. She then spent the next 15 minutes shoveling spoonful after spoonful of straight ground beef into her mouth. And I was like, yeah, no, we clearly have different food preferences.